Russian President Vladimir Putin held his annual marathon year-end news conference today. In the highly choreographed event, he was questioned by friendly journalists and carefully selected audience members. Now, it's meant to reassure the domestic audience that Putin is in fact in touch with ordinary Russians. CBC's Chris Reyes is tracking today's comments from Putin and joins us now live. So, Chris, as mentioned, this is an event that's highly orchestrated. There are no surprises here, but Putin addressed some really big issues. What stood out for you?
Absolutely. I mean, and the first thing that stood out to me is that we're living at a time when there is this massive international spotlight on Russia, really since Russia launched its war in Ukraine. And so this is a press conference that President Putin holds every year. But, you know, this year, the whole world is watching. And as you mentioned, this is a very different press event that you would see anywhere else because it is highly choreographed. And because of that, you know, just the optics of it, Natasha, with President Putin really sitting front and center, surrounded by very friendly voices, knowing that he's not going to be challenged in any uncomfortable way. And it lasted for 4 hours. It was broadcasted on state television. Really in its entirety. And some of the big points that he hit on, Natasha, is that one, he's ready to talk to President-elect Donald Trump, and that he's ready to talk to Trump to compromise, in his words, on ending the war in Ukraine. But in addition to talking about compromising and negotiations on ending the war in Ukraine, he also touted the strength of Russia in achieving their goals in Ukraine, and really even highlighted Russia's military strength and power and what he called the invisibility of some of their weaponry. And, you know, he said that in order for this compromise and these negotiations to begin in ending the war in Ukraine, it has to be involving negotiators that can be trusted. And again, he mentioned that he's ready to talk to Trump on this. So in that sense, that's a big step forward, whether that is just, you know, a lot of optics for this address. Remember, this particular press conference is meant to project power and control to Russia and the world. This is, as you mentioned, highly orchestrated. We'll wait to see whether world leaders, including President-elect Donald Trump, will react to it.
What else are you seeing in terms of reaction to what Putin's had to say today?
Yeah, well, let's talk about President Zelensky's reaction. I mean, they are essentially both saying the same thing, which is that this war in Ukraine has to end, but their strategies are very different. President Zelensky made a point in calling on the EU to speak as a united voice, and also calling on the United States to speak in a united voice and to really highlight what he called Russian madness. Have a listen to what he said on these points.
I think that Putin is not adequate, and he's very dangerous for everybody. Dangerous because for him it doesn't matter what it meant to be. I mean, it's human life, nothing. And I think he's crazy.
Worth mentioning, Natasha, that President Putin also sort of taunted Ukraine. And I want to read a quote from President Putin. He said, "Soon those Ukrainians who want to fight will run out, in my opinion. Soon there will be no one left who wants to fight. We are ready, but the other side needs to be ready for both negotiation and compromises." So we'll wait to see where all of this bluster will lead to as we end this year.
CBC's Chris Reyes in New York. Thank you.